Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Data Faces podcast that brings the human stories between marketing, data analytics, and AI to the forefront. I'm David Sweener, founder of Tiny Tech Guides, and your host for today's conversation. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Chelsea Wise. I asked her for her title. She told me she does stuff with go-to-market agents at Relevance AI. She specializes in AI agents, go-to-market strategy, and B2B SaaS, helping companies rethink how work gets done. So let's jump into it. Chelsea, welcome to the Data Faces podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hey David, nice to be here. Yeah, my name's Chelsea, and yes, I do stuff.
I love that. So can you just tell us a little bit about you, yourself, and then your company and what you're doing over there?
Yeah. So I'm a place called Relevance AI. We are the home of the AI workforce, building, deploying agents across lots of different use cases. Startup, we've recently announced Series B. I've been here for almost 4 years, from C to Series A to B. And prior to that, that's where I met you, David, in startup land, and then the acquisition for the last company that I was a part of. So for
Yep.
the past decade, I've been involved in startups. And so it feels like a lie to say that I do certain things or have a certain title, because if you're familiar with startups, you do stuff, whether
That's
it's
right.
spreadsheets, writing a social post, or selling the next deal, or helping with hiring and just helping founders out. It's busy out there.
I hear you. You wear many hats. So first things first, and people don't know this. I'm looking at my calendar. It's right here on my wall, like right there.
Yeah.
People don't know this, but you're in the future. So what can I expect tomorrow? Give me a little glimpse of tomorrow.
Oh, it's raining. Um,
Oh boy.
yeah, it's raining. We start with the weather, start with the big stuff. But it's
Okay.
pretty succulent out here. It's pretty juicy.
All
Pretty,
right.
pretty delicious. And I say I've got the word succulent in my head because I've recently won a hackathon, and the name of our
Oh.
team was Succulent Chinese Meal. And
Oh.
so, yeah, it's pretty exciting. And I've just come off a 8 a.m. call with actually someone in New Zealand who his name's called Marco. Marco, shout out. But he's even more in the future. And we were talking about agents and workflows and stuff. So
Okay.
and that was a good call. So I'm hoping in the next 24 hours you'll get a little bit of rain and some sunshine and something pretty juicy out there for you.
I love that. Well, thank you. And just one more thing about your background. So this connects the stories of human people and data and analytics and marketing and AI. And you're one of the rare few that you have a degree in the subject you're in. So you have a PhD. I looked this up on LinkedIn in marketing, consumer behavior, and choice modeling.
Yeah.
What is that? And it seems like you're sort of using it now. I mean, I have a degree in physics, and I'm not using that for anything. I mean, if I
Oh,
drop something, it
no.
falls. That's about it.
Oh, you're too kind. Yeah, I do. I do have a degree. I'm like a accidental startup technology consultant person, but my first career was as an academic. So I'm trained in those areas, formally trained. Got my degree, wanted to be a professor, and I studied under one of the world class, Jordan Louvier, one of the grandfather of choice modeling.
Okay.
And I really, as a young one back in the days, my undergrad days, I just cared about what people were doing, how they would make decisions. So that was the
Mm,
consumer psychology part. But I
okay.
always thought spreadsheets were fun. So data was always interesting. So bringing those fields together, and this was, just as a 20-year-old, just wanting
Right.
to study things and get a degree. Little did I know that big data became a thing, and analytics and consulting, and then whatever era we're in now in terms of AI. But at the heart, I'm just a girl that likes a good spreadsheet.
Well, you're way beyond spreadsheets now, so thank you for that background. So let's talk about AI agents. And so when you
Sure.
think about agents in the workplace, what's like the biggest change that you think maybe companies don't get, or what's the biggest change it's going to bring to B2B companies?
Um, One of the most underestimated change, or one of the little hacks that I've just stumbled upon recently, and it's not a use case of the agents and the workflows. Um, there's like so many different use cases and applications and different tools and
Sure.
platforms and all of that good stuff there. But I've stumbled upon a little bit of magic recently, and I'm just leaning into it. And It's something that's hasn't been I don't think has been considered sexy. Um, it's learning and development. So when I
Okay.
think learning and development, especially my side hustle is I'm an adjunct professor at 2 of the top universities here. And very importantly, I have to do once a year, I have to do compliance training, and I just click on
Oh, that's so exciting.
it's not sexy, no. No, not sexy stuff. But if it's very important, you have to do it.
Right.
Mm. But recently with agents, understanding what AI is, I think people appreciating ChatGPT or LLMs to create or, to improve their
Mhm.
grammar or ideation. I think people in the last 2 years are going, "Oh, I'm scared. Oh, this is a thing. Oh, is this a thing for my team or for our people?"
Right.
And the one thing we've stumbled upon recently in the past 2 months is cohort-based learning.
Okay.
Learning together, not clicking on little videos, but actually getting together and slowing down and having conversations. So I think that maybe that's sexy to me, that's really interesting to me, but it will like, with the rise of automating certain thing, there's still like, a lot of stuff that we have human agency um, and can control and can understand. And just right now, getting together and learning and just making sense of what is this what is this stuff?
Oh, wow.
What is it? And talking about it with peers and people across other companies, networking, I think that's kinda underestimated. I think people might be very quick to want to learn and experiment, that's good, or people might be very quick to say, "It's just a tool, it hallucinates, it does
Right,
stuff,"
right.
and feel very bipolar about the world, I'm either loving it or hating it.
Sure.
But the underestimated thing that I'm stumbling upon is people coming together and chatting about it and learning. Yeah,
Actually, so this is super interesting to me because this is like way beyond, I know some of the services have released, study mode or some derivation of that, or we're getting beyond students that you teach trying to use GPT to cheat on their homework or whatever. But you're talking about real peer-to-peer based learning, potentially within intra company and
totally.
inter company
Yeah,
about more than compliance, whatever subject is of
right.
interest to you, right?
What it is, what are the use cases? How is it used today? Where are we winning, whatnot? And if we project forward to understand, well, it is more than a thing. It is the next wave of automating some kind of knowledge work.
Mhm.
This is not just, I think automation was always perceived as this entry level thing, but actually doing something interesting and maybe even some creative work too. One maybe underestimated part is projecting to think about, well, who are the teams or the people or the group that will think about agentic operations. Not saying that you need to hire an
Right.
AI ops manager, out of the park, but just having a conversation to think about what are the second or third order implications for how to run a business. I think just talking about that, thinking about that in a very crawl, walk, run kind of way
Yep.
is I'm seeing a little bit like underestimated at the moment
Right,
because I
right.
think people are quick to judge.
Sure. And so if I just poke at this just a little bit, so
Mm,
let's assume you and I are going to learn about something in B2B
right.
software space, and you have an idea and I have an idea, and we right now there's ways we can chat, we can collaborate. Like, what role does the agent play in this? Does it help with the curricula? Does it help encourage discussion? Like, what role do you see agents playing in this space?
Oh, um, I'm not even thinking of the role that agents are playing. I'm
Oh,
thinking I'm going analog. I'm thinking of
okay.
the role that the humans need to spend more time with. Like I was
Oh,
teasing that little, that example about the you just have to watch that fun video, click, click,
right,
click, just
right,
to
right.
comply. That's not sexy. But I'm saying like actually sexy to go analog and to have these conversations and not have an agent to do it. And I've got some data to back this up. One of it came out of Stanford this year. It was published in 2025, and it's one of the first studies to look at the future of work with agents, not just
Right.
AI capabilities in general, but agents.
Yep.
And it's interesting because this study looked at two things. They're like, that we're going to look at the workers, people, over 1,000, 2,000 people that work and knowledge experts in their own field. And they looked across industries.
Yep.
But then they were like, let me put my marketer hat on. I'm a marketer. I know marketing. I don't know AI,
Right.
So
Sure.
they then had subject matter experts deeply to understand the current capabilities of agents and to look at where there's desire for agents to do
Yep.
stuff and actual capabilities. And that is a really interesting study because the first insight that came out of it was that it wasn't job security or insecurity. It was just trust and understanding. And people
Sure.
can't trust something if they don't understand it.
Yep.
So I think there is a desire for people to really like make sense of it. But I'm not saying that you need to program an agent to learn
Oh,
yet.
okay. Okay.
I'm
Got it.
saying no, like actually the secret sauce is meeting people, talking about their use cases. Because I think only if you start to demystify it, it becomes less of a threat, less of a thing.
I,
It just
I, yeah, I agree. There's no substitute for that human to human connection. And actually, I've heard from different channels that like in-person events, they're becoming more and more popular for these very reasons. So, um, let me just switch gears just a little bit. We've heard since generative AI really came out that
mm,
and now with agents, AI agents, it's going to replace me maybe, or certain job functions or pieces of jobs.
right.
What kind of what? How's it going to change how we do our work in companies?
I mean, the Stanford study is really interesting because it actually doesn't break down, like, it doesn't take a marketer and like says replaceable. Yes, no. It takes components of the tasks. It's the studies at the task level of the jobs. And I've been using generative AI, I've been using agents for the last 18 months. And I've seen this is more my anecdotal experience, but I've also seen in the Stanford study, it's
Mhm.
pretty good at analyzing information.
Sure.
It's pretty good at documenting information. It's pretty good at generating change logs and some product comms and doing that. And I feel really good about it because I have a bias. I have some great mentors. I've worked with some great companies and some great
Mhm.
leaders. So I have the bias of having some, I hope to say, some good experience. I'd like to think
Right.
I've got good taste, so I can evaluate it. And when I'm using agents today to generate information, I have a source of truth, and that's 50 engineers. And I share the output and I say to them, is this accurate?
Right.
And I
Right.
get that thumbs up, thumbs down immediately, again, from a human. So that's given me a lot of confidence and a lot of firsthand experience to go, oh, I'm seeing that sort of task, analyzing information, documenting information. And that's what they showed in the Stanford study, that
Right.
those
Right. Right.
tasks are open to agentic capabilities. Whereas there are tasks that have shifted up in workplace demand that are not yet or not suitable for agents. And this could be,
Oh.
again, training and teaching each other,
Okay.
how we organize and plan work, how we communicate with everyone. If people talk about, it's going to augment, or it's going to change, we're going to have time for now for higher level work, whatever that means.
Right.
Whatever that means, we've got to talk about it. It's going to have more. I think um, there's more of a need for the CMO or for the CRO, the CEO, the executives to really to communicate and to understand the technology, see how it may shift work, and then to really think about, what opportunities does this create for our organization beyond an efficiency play? And again, communicating with each other. organizing and planning work, training and talking to each other, talking to other organizations, being out there and networking.
Mhm.
A lot of that is human. So I don't think that like there's going to be an increase in value for those particular tasks. And I think that we should lean into having those conversations. That shouldn't yet be automated.
Right, right. Totally
Like,
agree with you.
no,
Eh,
no.
and so, so let's just say some fraction, whatever percentage of it is, it doesn't really matter. These agents can do that, and you can have a human in the loop to approve or validate or vet that response. Does that mean, or maybe the question is, for what you're seeing in the market and your customers and prospects and your role as a professor, are companies gonna are you gonna have more free time, or are they gonna be asking you to do more with less? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I thought of that. That's a really interesting question. I thought of that when it was the Wharton Harvard BCG study came out. This came out about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Again, I sound like a data nerd, like, I just like the research. So, like, rather than talk about my sample size 1 of
Right.
experience, it's like, I'd rather,
Right.
like,
Right.
well, if someone studied this 2,000 times in a controlled way. But it did make me think that about consulting when they ran that study, and it, like, this was more in the context of generative AI, and they showed that consultants that used it who got and again, these consultants are world-class consultants.
Sure.
These are not C players, these are A players, but there was an uplift. The outputs were not only better, but faster, and it did make me think as a buyer of consulting. I was like, "Does that mean that I get it cheaper?" And
Right.
faster,
Right.
like, or do I still have to pay that $1,000,000 price tag? Like, or like, so is it a race to the bottom price wise, or is it still, I think, information circulating is a good thing. Insights being circulated better and faster if that's possible, if we still have people that can evaluate it and have deep expertise. I think you often see with agents, or not with agents, but AI in general, this sort of garbage in, garbage out. We need our A players. We need our expertise more than ever before, and the role of critical thinking and all of
Uh,
that. You're
Totally.
smiling. Yeah, you're
Yeah, I know.
smiling.
Totally agree with you
So
because
the soundbite is that we shouldn't be paid. Like, I'm not suggesting that we pay McKinsey to, less, but it's a conversation of like, does it mean that we pay less? Does it mean that we get more time? Um,
yeah, no, but I agree with you. You need that that expert that can help take the output and shape it to the context that is in. AI is not great at that yet, and I've used it pretty extensively. But let me shift gears. So, like, given
Totally.
that you mentioned that AI agents, they can do research faster than we can. They can analyze data. They can help plan campaigns. How do you think marketing leaders, how do they need to rethink their playbook?
Um, are they not already? Like,
Well, I hope.
I'm
I think
hoping so. I'm
somehow.
hoping
I
that,
hope they are, but I don't know across the board. My
yeah,
sample size of a few. Whatever, however many
yeah,
it is. I think there's always leaders and laggards in any
right.
industry in every change. So I'm sure I just look to hem and haw on that. Who moved my cheese? Who's
Oh,
who's at the forefront and who's not.
I like 100%. What I'm seeing in the market, again, just where we deploy relevance AI, some of the first mover in use cases have been sales teams. So if the market is
Mhm.
needing some inspiration or just some learning, some lessons, go speak to your sales colleagues.
Wait, we
um,
talk marketing and sales talk. I guess in
they,
a healthy company they should, and in a
they
not so healthy
should, they
company they're
should. So,
ahead.
like, learn from your peers. I think too often it does a disservice where people have these like, oh, it hallucinates, therefore I can't do this, or oh, it's only good for analytical tasks, it's not creative tasks, because that used to be the old without AI but just data analysis. Whereas
Right,
now, um, one of our creative director, he he uses AI a lot, like, and it's moving so fast. I can't keep up with it. I'm not in that creative sphere,
right.
but just what he's able to do and just see. It doesn't mean it's changing the nature of his work, but just seeing it, experiencing it. The seeing is the believing. So
Sure.
one thing at Relevance that we weren't doing that our customers do, and therefore we were a slow mover in this. 3 weeks ago, we ran an internal hackathon,
Okay.
and the internal hackathon was like everyone. The teams were not self-chose. The founders and the director of engineering, everything was socially like architected.
Okay.
But in every hackathon team, we had to build an agent, a working agent, and submit it to our marketplace. It's like an app store within
Okay.
that. But we wanted to do something fun, and every team needed to have someone in go-to-market, someone that really understood customers well, and we
Right.
needed to have like kick-ass developers too.
Sure. Yeah.
David, I've never been in a hackathon before. Don't know about you. I was like, I
But
was like,
yeah, my
I'm
coding days are way in the past.
yeah, I've judged them, but I'm like, I feel like a fraud. Like, but I feel really happy. Like the soundbite is this marketer still got it. We won the most original
Oh,
agent. We won. There
wow.
were there was the most technical, most original, people's choice. We got most original. And I think it was because I think we did a good job of marketing and really thinking of the problem. And I was really thinking about like at Relevance today, in terms of product marketing and comms, there's just me, like, and
Sure.
barely me. I'm doing many other things. And so, really thinking about at the end of the day, what do I need to do? I want world class tutorials, I want world class documentation created with very little. I don't have headcount and I don't have resources. So, how can I automate that process?
Right.
And because I'm not into the narration game and the auto generated video game, I'm just not up
No.
to date with that.
Yeah.
So, I just pitched this as a problem to my kick ass engineers that just love this stuff. And I said, could we make relevance TV? Like,
Oh,
like Tiny Tech Guides TV,
right.
where the input is David's created a feature, but now we want not just documentation, but a narrated video about it.
Cool. Yep.
And the way in which they were like, it's possible. Here, we're going to use Python. Here, we can use relevance here. And they were just cooking. And again, I'm one of the oldest people on the team. I had the youngest people on my team, but I walked away just so inspired because I'm not them, they're not me, but together we made something really, really, really cool. And I think that part of that, so if I'm advising like a CMO, like of like, oh, how do you redo your playbook? You've got to
Right.
see, you've got to believe, you've got to carve out time. Truth be told,
Right.
I did not
Make
want to attend that day. I was
no,
like,
because you're busy. You got your
I'm
day
busy.
job. You got your day job to do. I'm using quotes on that,
Yeah,
and
I've got
it's like an
my boot
extra.
camp. I've
It's
got
an
to.
extra thing. You got a boot camp. Everything.
But it was the best. It was really, really, really powerful because I saw how this 21-year-old genius, he was running the show. I saw them really lean into the idea, and just how they build. And the secret sauce is it was the humans. Like Relevance, our platform could do all of this stuff, but otherwise, I was just gonna be sticking and
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
my day job and whatnot, and everyone says the same stuff, like, "I don't have time, I'll learn when I," but I think
Right.
leaders need to really carve out time. What we do have now is our office, in downtown. It's a big warehouse, it's bigger than what we need in some parts,
Yep.
so customers come to us just to have an away day. And
Okay.
again, it sounds so corny, but you
No.
need to sometimes step away, carve out time, and to learn from others. So, like hosting a hackathon where people just play with tools to see
Right.
it, to apply it, to think, it can really unlock ideas and energy. And it brought the oldest in the team and the youngest together, and we
Okay.
got a trophy. So that's also nice.
I love that. And so what I'm hearing, sort of the three things I got of this. Number one, make time. You've stressed that. Two, sort of a mixed team. So you chose these teams very carefully, and uh, and do it hands-on learning. Don't
Yeah,
just think or opine about it. I love
yeah.
that. and then it's something that is in your marketplace or will be in your marketplace, soon.
Totally. Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Customer
Like, I
facing,
come
customer
back to
centric.
learning a lot. Like, my side hustle is that I'm like a professor, so I'm biased to love the learning, but to me, it's not about like which platform do you choose or whether you do a free trial or a 3-month pilot or whatnot. It's about understanding capabilities and getting really personal, i.e., what problems do you and your organization need to solve?
I like that. Yeah, the use case centric. So I love that. So let me ask you another question then. So what about marketing leaders? What's sort of the biggest, I guess, misconception they have about integrating these agents into their daily workflows? What do you see that they're like underestimating or like they just don't get, initially?
I don't think they're underestimating anything, but there's definitely something that does them a disservice, and that's people on LinkedIn or whatnot with copy that says, "This 43 agent team can make you can with this team you can fire your CEO to CMO tomorrow. This will replace your
Right,
entire marketing function." And it gets the likes. It's click farming. It does its job in terms of getting the clicks and the attention, but it does a real disservice to
right,
people that and to most enterprise to all enterprise organizations that are not going to fire or replace or lean into that kind of narrative. It's scary, and is it even possible? And is that the
mm,
best place to start? To start with the expectation of trying to replace all of this stuff? Like, that goes so county, and contrary to the research, where a lot of the value is in a lot of sometimes unsexy use cases.
right,
The
right.
stuff that's not about firing, or like a super swarm of AI agents. Um, I did something recently and it wasn't even an agent, it was just an AI workflow, but built in relevance that
Yep.
again, I had like 2,000 people on my wait list for my boot camp, and I didn't think that I'd get that many. So I thought that I would have a few and I would just spend an afternoon going on
Right.
LinkedIn and looking at their profiles
Sure.
and reading their applications. But when you have over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, you realize, and then you ask yourself, you're not ready for mass on demand self-paced learning, but you want to do something cohort style,
Mm,
that it's a multidimensional problem. You want
right.
a mix of genders, you want a mix of seniority, you want a mix of people that are like even you want a modern day marketer, someone that might use these kind of tools.
Right.
And it's actually that's a multidimensional problem is hard for a human to do that
Sure.
research. You'll end up just going to a LinkedIn profile and going, "They work for Adidas,
Yeah.
shoes."
Yeah, you only can really can do 2 dimensions, maybe 3 if we're into 3D graphic,
Went
but
to
that's about it.
Stanford,
Yeah.
knows Jonathan.
Right.
Whereas as a part of my workflow, like I could enrich this data set. So it's just a spreadsheet because I had people that applied. I had people that had filled in them, like they filled in a survey, and I could amalgamate those data sets. And then I could enrich my spreadsheet with um, flag whether this person would like is a high fit, a good fit for this boot camp based on their motivations.
Right.
Because
Okay.
some people are really good for the boot camp, but be a poor fit. They just want troubleshooting, Then they
Okay.
should just go to our support team, like they
Okay,
don't
got
need
it.
to
Yeah.
learn.
Right, right, right.
So again, using an agent and the power of an LLM to kind of explain my thinking. Hey, I'm looking for this. Signals of a good fit are they're a user, they do this, they're adult, but they could be mid-career, they could be senior. Like I'm really flexible on that. But just flag in my data set if these people are a high, low fit, or if you don't know, just flag it as unknown. And
Right.
honestly, that workflow, it was phenomenal. It didn't auto make the decision for me. That is still human, but it really superpowered the way in which I could like do this research and do it better than a human could have ever done that. Now, I think it's also because I'm quite thoughtful and I'm like looking for signals and I care about this cohort.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that I really want this multidimensional thing. I don't want just the first 10 people that have signed up. But that's a really like it's not a very sexy use case, just enriching a spreadsheet. But it's really powerful because in most organizations, most work happens in emails, in spreadsheets, in Slack.
Right. Well, I think it's a testament to, you don't have to write the code per se now, but you can explain, you're a thinker, you're a teacher, you're a professor. And so you can explain what you want to happen in it.
Right.
You can nudge it in the right direction to make it happen
Yeah.
without having to spend your day learning how to write whatever coding language it would be in. So I do love that about that. And so it allows you to express your creativity, your ingenuity, and the large language model can help facilitate that, but it's your thought process, it's
Right.
executing your thought.
And I'd like to think it was inspirational for some of the junior people in my team that have never, because some people that are quite junior in their career that have just worked at a startup, they don't have the experience of a large organization with a lot of expertise and a lot of
Right.
norms of how you do work. So, like, when they're like, "Oh, why did you merge those 3 data sets?" and da, da, and I'm like, "This is no accident. This is how we do things, but this is
Right.
how now we do things with agents." And
Yep.
like, it's still all about the spreadsheet, and it's still all about that, but showing how like, I surprised myself because I didn't know it was possible to, like, have this, like, an LLM to do this. Because it sounds so icky when people are like, "Oh, you're just scraping LinkedIn, or you're just scraping this information." Maybe that sounds icky, maybe whatnot, but it's the joy is really in the yeah, in the analysis and then just
Right.
seeing it in the
Right.
spreadsheet, um, and then feeling like, actually, this is better than like, it surfaced some people that no-name companies, I've never heard of them before, but in terms of what they wrote in their survey answers, they were
Yep.
such a high like, their motivations, they're on camera, they're there, they're present, their desire, so they have the non-conventional signals, they didn't go to an
Yeah.
Ivy League
Sure.
school and whatnot, but it really flags those things really well. So
Okay, I love that. So we'll get people the link to the boot camp. But let's talk. Wait, maybe we're coming up near the end of our time. But so if you're advising a marketing leader, a CMO, whatever, a leader of a function within marketing, how are you going to tell them to prepare their teams? Not just the tech stack. How do you prepare the organization for AI agents?
100%. I mean, this is a plug for me, but they should join my AI ops boot
Join
camp.
the boot camp. How do
Join
we how
join
do
my
we
boot
how
camp.
do we find it? How do we find your boot camp? Where is it?
So yeah, there's a link. I'll link it to you. We've just closed because I'm just wrapping up cohort 1. I've got 50 executive leaders from around the world. Really having conversations about, and some are already building or their teams. Some in the
Mhm.
cohort will never build. Their leaders, they're never going to be on the tools, and some people are hardcore builders.
Right.
But we're having a conversation about what is a successful use case? Like, where do we have as a cohort higher confidence, and where are we at Relevance have seen more confidence in terms of deploying? And we've just been deploying this in the past 2 years, but where we're sharing those stories and those case studies. Um, People like to nerd out over image generation because that's fun, or like how we
Right.
can automate slide decks and whatnot. But then we talk a lot about the unsexy use cases, like my changelog generator, like automating
Right.
comms, and like how that triages to support teams, um, and how we're running internal hackathons. The learning, I think most people wanted to come to boot camp to learn the tools, but I've
Yeah.
actually taken and I'm like, you can teach yourself the tools. Like, that's gonna be a part
Sure.
of our, like, self-learning thing. It's about the heart. How do we win the hearts and the minds of each other as either junior, mid, or leaders? And how do we then, if we sell it and believe it, how can we then evangelize it and sell it top down? Because it has to
Sure.
come top down too. Like,
I Yeah.
has to be both ways.
I love that. I'm gonna maybe ask one more bonus question before we wrap up. A little bit unrelated, but slightly. So you teach AI ethics.
It's a part of it, yeah.
Part
A
of what
part
you
of them.
teach.
Yeah. I teach 2 executive MBA units. One of them is a capstone startup type project. The other one is Introduction to Data Algorithms and Fairness for executive MBAs. So they often don't have a data background in, like, algorithm design is not their thing, but they understand the purpose of it. So it's an introduction to ethics.
Yeah. So, given this, and there's a lot of, you mentioned hallucinations earlier, in terms from like ethics, what do companies need to think about before they just implement agents? Because I think there's a lot to think about, but I would love to hear it from you.
Probably the biggest aha moment when I'm, like, teaching the slides, and there's a lot we go through. But the aha moment that many people kind of have, and they're like, "Oh, I never thought about that." They often blame the data and think about the data set. Like, this is in traditional modeling, if you're just
Mhm.
thinking traditional, like predicting something versus now looking at LLMs and what's coming back.
Right.
Um, but the concept of missing information, just asking what's omitted from this analysis, like, not
Okay.
even if it's right or wrong, because
Right.
I think we're often quick to go, it's right, it's wrong, but just asking, like, what hasn't been captured here? Like, if we're looking for crime, we're going to find it. But
Right.
what
Right.
areas didn't we look for? There's sort of survival bias, a lot of those kind of concepts. Just asking, like, what information's included, and therefore what conclusions can we make from that? Um,
Okay. I
yeah,
love that.
the missing information bias, I don't know, I studied it. It
Yeah,
was my first
yeah,
research.
yeah. That whole I mean, I guess it reminds me of old Sherlock Holmes. It was the dog that didn't bark. So I think it's really important for people to think through that. So
I mean, it's often like when we're talking to executives and we're trying to unpack bias, it really is like a look in the mirror of, like, we as humans have curated these data sets, or, in traditional survey design, you're like,
yeah,
your output is only going to be a function of, like, how good or how crappy your questions are, input, output,
right,
you know?
right.
And I think many people, like, data itself has been marketed very well as the source of truth and this sexiness, but often the data is flawed and, like, no, we shouldn't be leaning into the conclusions. We should be leaning into, like, how this thing was captured in the first place. And again, that's the role of critical thinking and, traditional education, as unsexy as that might be. But they're really important questions to ask. And yeah, it might feel like a Debbie Downer to say,
No,
oh,
no, no, no. I think
like, oh, can we just circle back to, like, what was the purpose of this? How do we capture this information? Or, like, what's missing? But
mhm,
you can't train that muscle in your brain. Like, the LLM's not necessarily going to train it for you. You got to train it in your own head. So I think, especially in our organization, when I'm unapologetic, I will always ask and critique the design or whatnot, because I think that that's where we do have human agency, and a responsibility, if we are blessed with great mentors and people that we've worked with, to instill that to others, so that when we're starting to use the tools and starting to use agents, that what is good with humans in our ability to think and criticize, like, we can come with that to tease out that nuance.
all
Is
right.
it
Well,
too
excellent.
philosophical?
No,
Too
no,
many
no.
words?
That's a perfect note to end on, Chelsea. I think this was been super informative. I want people to go check out Relevance AI. We'll put a link to that. Your boot camp.
Yeah, cohort 2 is, and again, I'm behind it, so I'm gonna open the wait list in the next week or 2. So on socials, I'll promote
Great.
that. Again, the algorithm doesn't pick you. Me
I
and the
like that. So
team.
let's use your brain. You have one. So with that, Chelsea, thank you for joining. Thank you
Pleasure.
for calling in from the future, explaining what's going to happen to me tomorrow. This was a great discussion. So I appreciate it. And I'm sure our listeners and viewers will love it too. So thank you so much for joining.
So.
Ciao.